start lying on our back. So anybody who's kind of feeling ready and set up can just go ahead and get comfortable on your back. Sometimes this is the most beneficial part of the whole class, is just taking the time to mentally and physically let go. Feel your back kind of coming into release on the floor. Start tuning into your breath. Just let the rest of the world, all the worries and tension, be in the background.
Right.
If you're really comfortable in Shavasana, many of you look perfectly wonderful. Stay there. Sometimes it helps to bend the knees a little bit, especially if your back's tight. It's going to help release the full spine into the floor, maybe open the hips a little bit, but just whatever feels good. And just notice that. Notice how good it feels to stop. Stop and feel. And just be for a moment. We're going to begin with a simple little hug. Take your right knee and bend it, and wrap the arm around the shin or the back of the leg, whatever best works for you. Just begin to breathe that knee into the chest. By that I mean there will be a little internal rhythm. So the exhale, you'll find yourself able to pull it in a little deeper. And the inhale, you just let it go. It's just following the breath, following the belly. It can be a very subtle movement, but it should feel good. Just feel into that hip flexor, letting it go. And then make some little circles with that knee. So you're kind of helping with your hands to just, yes, roll the knee into a nice circle. Just pick a direction. Try to feel the edges of your mobility in that side. So slower is better, and you all are experienced. Nobody's going really fast, but just slower is better. Just find an edge where you might feel a little bit tense. Breathe into it and keep going. And then get to a point and switch direction. Same slow, careful, circular pattern. And then we'll take that same leg and just elevate it up to the ceiling. So take your arms and release them from the shin and put them onto the back of the leg, just to support extending that leg up to the ceiling. But the Yin principle is you don't go to your maximum, kind of ease yourself long. Just think about lengthening, releasing whatever's tight in the back of the leg or the hip, and just support that leg however it needs. Some of you will have your hands low. Some of you might be on the calf. Some of you might have your hands on your foot. But it's not about how high you are. It's just feeling that release of the back of that leg. It takes several breaths to get that release to happen. So you just be patient. You might feel the leg coming a little more towards the chest with a breath, but no need to force it. And then let go of the arms and just let that leg float to the ground. We'll do that same thing on the other side. So the left leg, if that's the right leg for you, bring it in. First, just breathe it straight into the chest. Little breath pulses to release that hip flexor. When you feel ready, begin those circles, feeling into the edge of that hip socket. So if you're drawing circles with the knee. I love the pace. Everybody's got a nice slow pace. And 4 or 5 in one direction, and then you'll just let the knees circle the other direction. Find a good supported hold and begin to extend that leg towards the ceiling. Doing whatever feels good. Sometimes it feels good to flex and point the foot a little bit. Sort of helps ease the muscles along the leg and also feels very good to the ankle. But mainly you're just breathing that leg long, you're thinking about it coming to the chest, not forcing it. Letting it settle into an open stretch. The straighter your knee, the more stretch you're getting throughout the back of the leg. But if your hamstrings are very tight, your knee may feel better, a little bit flexed, so you can focus on that hamstring. And just pick a breath and let that leg float down nicely, calmly to the floor. Good. And to finish on our back here, we'll come into Happy Baby. Everybody knows Happy Baby, I think. Yep, you just find a good hold. It might be on the back of your thighs. You might be able to grab your feet, which is a nice hold. To play around with it, find a good hold. And by good hold, I mean nothing that's making your shoulders tense up, the arms to help release the lower back. Just rock side to side, feel free to do that. That's a nice little massage for the kidney area, a little bit like a happy baby. A good thing. Now, to the degree you can, we'd like to come into an open leg stretch here, kind of a V stretch. You may have to change the position of the hands on the legs, but most of you will be able to keep where you were, yes, and let them just go into a V, feeling those hips open out to the side. Gives it a little different stretch to the muscles in the back of the leg as well, because the hamstrings are really several muscles and some of them are sort of on the side. So you don't want to be straining in the hips, but it might feel good to just extend those legs pretty wide to your degree. And we have a wall, we can actually hold this for quite a while. We're not going to hold it a long time because it does take some effort to keep those legs floating in that position. Go ahead and bring them center so that they're together. You can keep them long for a minute. Sometimes that feels really good. And then cross the ankles, pick, say, right over left ankle. And if you can grab them with your hands, I'd like you to do a little bit of a vertical roll, which is just really good massage to the back. So it's like happy baby, only vertical along the spine massage. So you can get a little momentum forward and back. Good. And you'll just take one of those rolls when it feels right to sit up. Here we are, yay, sitting. We're just gonna do a simple cross-leg forward bend. So nothing too strong on the hips yet. Or one leg, say the right leg's just in front of the left, and you just use your arms to walk yourself forward. Those of you who work with me know that I usually like to start with a fairly straight spine. just because that helps compress and open the hip area, which is tight for most of us. But eventually we're going to want to find a forward bend where we're relaxed. Our back is just relaxed and rounded, almost like your forehead just wants to come to the ground. So you're not pushing into it, you're just releasing the spine forward bend. We will hold this for several breaths, almost a minute. So plenty of time for those back vertebrae, the muscles along the spine to let go. Everybody's different. If your neck is fine to be heavy, it's actually good for the back of the neck to open here. You can raise your head a little bit if that's a little too much on your neck. So notice we're not really doing anything. Just the shape of the pose is allowing some things to release and let go. The more you step out of the way, the better it is for your nervous system, the mind, and the body to just allow an opening to happen. Go ahead and lift the spine. We're actually going to stay here for a minute. So just roll the spine up, almost like a rag doll. Just enough, give yourself just enough freedom of movement to change the cross of the legs. So if you had your right leg forward, you're going to bring your left ankle forward in a little cross. And same thing, you're just letting this hip be the focus for the opening. Use your hands for as much support as you need. And then try to find a place where you can just let the spine, the neck round and release. Some of you, the forehead will come to the floor, which is a nice resting position. Some of you, it won't, and that's fine. Few more breaths. You always want to come out in super slow motion, so just help yourself sit up. Be on our belly. What I have done, if you can see me, is I actually have my blanket kind of in crossways on my mat, and that's for the pose that follows this. So sometimes it's nice to work with a little bit of a T. It's going to help our knees when we go into the next pose. But for now, just come onto your belly, our belly, and we're going to do our Sphinx Seal series. We do this almost every time because it's so healthy for the spine. We just try to find a way to prop our shoulders right over our elbows. The forearms are straight out in front. The only muscle we're using is a little bit of pressure into those arms supporting the torso. Elbows might pull back towards the waist just a little. The idea in Sphinx is we want our spine to get long. So it's not a press up like a cobra or an up dog. It's lengthening, lengthening, lengthening the spine from the tailbone all the way up those muscles to the shoulder. And you will get an arch. Most people, if their spine gets long and released enough, you will naturally arch. And that's the super benefit of this pose, is letting it counter stretch all that forward action we have in most of our daily lives. The other thing that's nice about yin is there's no perfect way to look. There's no real defined drishti or gaze. Sometimes it feels good to let the neck be part of the spine. It's long. If the neck gets tired though, you can just let the neck release. Sometimes even making little side-to-side movements with the neck can help this whole process of releasing the spine. We try to hold this for about a minute or so. It's actually starting to rain here. I'm so excited. We got about 10 more seconds. Of course, anytime you need to come out, you just come out. You don't wait for the clock to tell us. But if you're there, go ahead and come out super simply, just letting the chest go to the floor by letting the elbows come out of the way. Make a little stack of your hands and turn your head to one side and just rest the neck on that little pillow. For a few breaths. And we'll kind of repeat the back bend. Always have the option of repeating Sphinx, or some of you I know like to come up higher. We call this seal. So in this one, the arms are actually very easily supportive of the torso because they're straight, and they can be out as far as you need them to be and as wide as you need them to be, but it helps compress the spine a little bit lower, mid-back, low back. And we'll hold this for about a minute. Especially in the seal version, your legs might want to engage, especially if you do a lot of regular yoga. Your buttocks might want to contract. Those are natural reflexes. So you just tell them to let go. You're not going to push hard enough to hurt anything. You just want all the muscles nice and relaxed. This is more about the bones than it is about strengthening or anything in the muscle. You come down whenever you need to. I'm going to take about 5 more breaths. And just find a nice exhale to bend the elbows. You know where we're headed. A little rest. A little face down rest with the head tilted the other direction to just passively stretch the tight tendons in the neck. Now we're going to come into the next pose, which is a natural counter pose to the back bend, into a wide child. That's why this little T, I've got my blanket spread out a little bit so my knees have a little padding underneath. What we're aiming for is we want our knees to be wide, the feet kind of together, although some people can turn it into a frog where you're more like in a little L shape. I'm going to keep my toes together and just stretch, push, let the arms help push the hips towards the heels, and find a place to rest on your elbows, or even lower. Your chest might come, your chin might come down. You're looking for that edge of I can still breathe, I can still feel comfortable, and I'm getting good stimulation in that inner groin. Strong hip opener without needing muscle to hold anything up. I'm going to time this one at a minute as well, but it can be kind of intense, so 30 seconds in you may adjust, ease up a little bit, or get a little deeper. You've probably noticed already what you do with your arms kind of affects how stimulating the pose is. If the hands are wrapped back by your hips, your shoulders can completely let go. For some of us, it feels good to have our arms stretched forward. Let it be part of the stimulation of the pose in that shoulder. So you decide. Coming up on a minute, but I'm going to say people look really good. Take maybe 5 more deep breaths. See if you can sink an inch deeper wherever you are. And ever so gradually just release the pose. Usually it's just a matter of letting the knees come more together, so release that strong opener, and then roll up. You can sit in heroes for a minute. We've done quite a bit of spinal stimulation. I'm going to invite us to do just a few cat-cows. Take advantage of this opening. So just come to your hands and knees. The wrists are right under the shoulders. The arms should be able to support the torso. The knees are right under the hips. And just breathe and let the spine release into a cow, the arch part. Look up and then exhale. And let your head and back round as much as you can, and just do that a few times. We're just doing this as a counter pose and to also enjoy the openness in our spine. We like to synchronize with the breath, but if one of these positions feels very good for you, don't be afraid to stay there and breathe an extra breath. Body telling that it really likes that curve, or it really likes the arch. It's probably what it needs. And then we're going to come out of it back to a seated. We're going to do some seated twists today. We don't do these a whole lot in yin, but it's really healthy for the spine. So I thought it might be a nice thing to try tonight as we're working our spine. We're going to just sit on our sits bones. The legs are straight. Just check and see if that works for you. We can always keep the knees soft if our back needs that to be erect. We're actually going to bend one leg in. So it's kind of like the knee squeeze we did on the floor, but now we're trying to bring it in as we stay seated. So the twist is over this bent leg, and you just work your way around, kind of using your hands as leverage against that leg, and you just pick how much you can torque and spiral the spine so that the images that we're going to look behind ourselves might not be that far. Some of you can actually get your arm inside the leg, can support the spine with the back arm. Wherever you are, the degree of ability to twist with a long spine. Very similar to what we do in a recline twist, but a little more active. A little bit more muscle engagement. We still stay soft. Still want to stay soft, not forcing it, mostly using the breath. The inhale to lengthen and exhale to give just a little more room for that spine to twist around. We'll hold this for a few more breaths. Exactly where that foot is, you can adjust that a little bit. You want to just feel kind of like solid so that all the focus can be on that spine, getting a spiral. And if the neck can follow and keep looking behind, it becomes part of the spiral of the spine. We don't want to force the neck too much. Let's say 3 more breaths. And I'll just do something I like to do to come out. The first thing I do is let the neck lead, let the chin lead. So let the neck come around before you release the spiral, and see how far in the other direction it can look. So it becomes part of our little neck release. Now, let that knee that's bent drop out to the side. And the heel can come very far high on the groin, or it can be much softer down the leg. We're going to forward bend over that extended leg, wherever we are. And so now we're rounding the spine again. And start with a nice long straight spine till you kind of find that edge. Take a nice exhale. And talk your body and just releasing wherever it is. Every muscle in the back. Let's go. Now the torso's heavy. And it's more the heavy torso that's giving us the stretch rather than a pull. Although the hands like to find a place there where they can kind of be stable and help this whole process. And give yourself about 3 nice breaths. So take those last inclinations forward and then let an inhale help you roll up and release. Slow motion. Sometimes it feels good to just lean back on the hands. Let that hip neutralize. Maybe move the legs a little bit. Same thing other side when you're ready. It's going to bend the left leg into that knee up position. For some of you, just this action of pulling into that leg, maybe just tilting sideways a little bit is quite good. And you just kind of explore where your twist is. What lever of the arm against the inside or the outside of the leg helps you get tall and spiraled without too much effort. This is my stiff side, so don't be surprised if the side don't quite look the same side to side. And just let that neck look behind to its degree and breathe. I like to say, even though we're holding the pose, there's actually a very nice, consistent rhythm to all poses, and it comes from the breath. So even though somebody looking in would say you're just sitting there, you're breathing tall, you're exhaling, deepening, little by little, poco a poco, increasing the mobility of that spine. Check your neck, see if you can get it to release without strain. Take a few more deep breaths. And if you enjoy it, let the neck release first so that you can look over that opposite shoulder. And then completely come out of the twist. And just find your single leg stretch position. My left leg's bent, heels high up on the leg. Yours may not look exactly the same. You may have a little bit of bend in your straight leg. Wherever you are, you're trying to get that torso long and over that stretched out leg until you find that edge where you can let go. Let gravity release the spine and get length in the leg. Give yourself a couple of nice, easy breaths to roll on out. And I thought because we're doing several seated poses today, we'll do our hip opener, thread the needle, which we sometimes do on our backs. We'll do that seated version we did a couple weeks ago, where we try to we get that figure 4, so right foot can be on left thigh, just above the knee, if that works. And you'll notice that just a little bit of pressure on the outside of that foot naturally opens the hip. So there you are, that's a hip opener. Those of you who can go deeper, you just use the arms to help your chest get closer. Some of you may be able to sit up in a full, kind of like cradle, but you'll find it. You'll find your edge where you've got plenty of supported hip opener just because of the way that's shaped. That looks good. Throughout the hold, you can just maybe bring your hands in another inch. See how it feels. You can always walk them back out. Everybody looks really good. There's not much to suggest here. I find this pose pretty much, your body teaches itself. I see some of you with it pretty far crossed. The more you bring your foot onto the thigh, you have a little bit more cushion, so it's not your poor ankle bone putting in, and actually it's a deeper stretch. So the more open, less crossed you are, the little deeper the pose is, if that makes sense. Yeah, right, Lexi? And if you're leaning pretty far back, no worries. Body will sort of tell you when you're getting that healthy stress on the joint. You never want to hurt anything. There's no reason to. Got about coming into the release, so 3 or 4 more breaths. See if you can come up a little bit more, or see if, like, no, that's plenty. I'm going to give myself extra time to come out of this pose. Maybe windshield those hips a little bit. Helps bring some neutrality back, side to side. And we'll do that seated thread needle on the other side. So I think some of you have done this before. You can really decide how much you bend, how much pressure is coming up into the chest, and how much the arms are supporting you. So you've got these 2 levers. You've got your leg, the foot on the floor part, and the hand part. Both can be adjusted to decide how much stress that joint is going to enjoy. You can lean back further if it gets too much, or you can straighten out the leg a little bit. Both work to ease the pose. Or deepen the pose. And I love yin. Doesn't matter what we do with our head. We can listen to music. We can roll it around. Nobody's looking. And if you haven't already, give yourself 2 or 3 nice long exhales that just take maybe a moment of deepening or just a nice slow release of that shape. Do whatever feels good to the legs. Back to the little windshield if that felt good. And we've got one more strong pose. So when we work hips in yoga and yin yoga, we tend to do a lot of openers, but I like to let the hips internally rotate at least once in the class, which is harder for some of us, easier for some of us. We're all different. And this is the saddle one we do. So we usually start in heroes, but where we're headed is we'd like to sit the buttocks between the heels. So some of you, you're not going to be able to get to the floor. You're going to want to put something, a rolled up blanket or a block. Keep yourself a little high. For some of you, that's no problem, and you can keep the knees fairly close together or let the knees spread. Now, for those of you, I know there's a couple of you for that dual internal rotation is just hard and it starts transferring to the knee. Please play around with maybe doing one knee at a time, just letting one knee find a little bit of rotation. See how I am? I'm in kind of just a half saddle. I'm leaning away from that hip and knee, and I have total control over how much pressure is down the front of the leg into the knee. So please take care of your body if that double saddle does not feel healthy on your knee. And once we get kind of settled, I'll time it and try to cue about halfway through, so you can, if you're in the single leg version. I see Lexi's already found it. Those of you who this is no big problem, you can try to recline the saddle. So you just work your way back and back and back and back. And if the shoulders can come to the floor, it is such a nice stretch on the front of the body, the quadriceps. And a healthy knee actually enjoys this kind of opening. It's just, you know the difference between, oh, that feels kind of good versus I'm getting a sharp pain. We don't want that. I usually kind of take it in stages, sort of like you are, Dan and Craig. I kind of sit up for a while, let my hips kind of find a rotation that isn't too uncomfortable, and then just gradually let my body sink back to the degree it can. So don't ever be afraid to just take it little by little. There's no pressure to get to the floor. How's your knee doing? Well, I know you can't talk, but I'm looking at Leslie, who has to be super careful with her knee, but yay, I like the thumbs up, thank you. And it's been about a minute if you're in the single leg version. You can work your way around, release that poor bent knee, and just little by little take that other heel back by the buttocks and see if you can do a half saddle. Lean away from the hip, lean away from the knee, test the waters, see what you can ask of it. For those of you in reclined saddle, often we get quite a strong lumbar back bend out of this too. It's actually very good for the organs, but it's just not available to everyone. Okay, I hope I didn't misstart this timer. I think we're coming to the end. So breathe and release. If you're on your back in full recline, be very careful how you come up so you don't ask too much of your knees. Sort of lean to one side, usually is okay. Use your arms to help you up. The knees just are gradually going to come out of that torque that they're in. You might just want to take a nice comfy child pose for a second. Release that arch we put in that low spine for some of you. Whatever feels good. Just a counter pose, so you've got a lot of freedom in what listening to your body, seeing what it needs. And wherever you are, you're going to gradually make your way to your back again. And I'm going to recommend starting for a minute, not a full minute, but a few breaths. One more outward hip rotation. So this is a reclined cobbler or a reclined butterfly. Let your knees fall open, the feet be together. So it's the same attitude as Shavasana. You're really not pushing anything. You're just using this reclined knee opener to let those hips open back out. Nice time to check the breath and just make sure your belly is soft, responding to the breath. And our last active series are going to be just simple recline twists rather than those fairly active seated ones we do. We're going to bring the right knee into the chest, just like we did in the beginning. Left leg can be bent or straightened out along the mat. You kind of decide how active you want that bottom leg. The more long it is, the more it's opening the hip flexors. And then let that knee, that bent knee, just fall to the side. You can put the opposite arm out in a T position to help stabilize the shoulders, and just let it fall. We don't care if it gets to the floor. What we care about is releasing that back, using the counterpoint of the shoulder and the knee to spiral the back, twist the back. Just breathe. Give yourself 2 or 3 nice deep breaths to just deepen and elongate into that pose. Very briefly coming to your maximum twist. And let that knee come back to center. And just like in the beginning, we're going to let that leg come up to the ceiling. We're not going to hold this. It's just a nice, strong counter stretch. Lift it. Hold on to where you can on the leg, foot, ankle, calf, thigh, and lift the torso and try to pull that leg towards the forehead. Just very briefly, a couple breaths. We're kind of getting the reinforcement of all that stretching we did, and then let it float down. Same thing to the other side, just find your good position for the twist. I've got my left leg up. It's gonna I'm helping it with my right arm. I'm helping the knee come to the side. Opposite arm, my left arm's coming out to help anchor that shoulder. So if you look at your clothes, your t-shirt, you see nice little folds of fabric as the spine spirals around itself. Again, that rhythm is there. It looks like we're not doing anything, but we're actually getting a little deeper spiral. Each time we focus on the breath and let the breath touch those areas of the spine that need releasing. Couple more breaths. Whenever you're ready, we're going to do that little strong, long leg stretch. Help your knee come back center. Find a good long hold on that leg, reaching towards the ceiling, or even past vertical towards the floor over your head, and then lift the forehead toward the knee. Does not matter if it gets there. This is a super long leg stretch and a release of the spine. And let that leg float down. We're going to go into our Shavasana. So anything that feels like it needs an extra bit of love, just gradually make your way to your most released position. Legs away from each other and soft. All the way up to the hips wide, the back flat, the shoulders pressed, released against the floor, I should say, which for most of us means the palms will turn up. If that's not comfortable, the elbows can bend. You can just rest your palms on your belly and breathe. And before I be quiet, just check your jaw, check the neck. Make sure it feels comfortable and straight and released. And then give yourself permission to do absolutely nothing. Begin to let your breath return to its full and natural rhythm. Bringing a little bit of movement, energy back into the body. And when you're ready, just help yourself come to any seated position to close. Keeping that internal focus, thanking yourself for coming, taking the time to practice. It's hard to do Om over Zoom, but breathe and vibrate Om off the back of your throat and listen to my Om and just receive the energy. Om.